Once upon a time, in a village called Awala, there lived a man named Mr. Oka and his wife Mrs. Oka. They had a son. Their son's name was Adam. Mr. and Mrs. Oka trained their child well. They taught Adam good manners and how to make the right choices. But sometimes, children do not always follow what they had been taught. When Adam turned 21 years old, he became close to a girl named Ure. Ure was the daughter of a respected clergyman in the community. Adam and Ure spent a lot of time together. They liked each other very much. However, something unexpected happened. Ure became pregnant. Ure was very worried. She told Adam about the pregnancy. Adam was as confused as Ure. They did not know what to do. While they were still thinking about what to do, Ure's parents found out that she was pregnant. They were very surprised and upset. They asked Ure many questions to find out who the father of the baby was. At first, Ure did not want to tell them, but after much hesitation and persuasion, she revealed that it was Adam who got her pregnant. Ure's parents were very disappointed and angry. They decided to take Ure to Adam's family. When they arrived at Adam's house, they told Mr. and Mrs. Oka why they had come. Mr. and Mrs. Oka were very disappointed in their son. They could not believe what they had heard and what their son had done. They apologized to Ure's parents and begged for their forgiveness. But Ure's parents were very angry. They said that they could not bear the shame their daughter had caused them. So they decided to leave Ure with Adam's family until she gave birth to the baby. Ure's parents left her at Adam's house and went back to their own home. Mr. Oka was very much angry with Adam. He scolded him harshly and told him how disappointed he was with him. They warned Adam and Ure never to be seen together again until the baby was born. From that day, Ure stayed with Adam's family. Adam and Ure were both very sad and worried about what would happen next. They knew they had made a mistake, but they did not know how to fix it. They felt sorry for disappointing their parents and causing them so much pain. The days went slowly. Ure's belly grew bigger and bigger as the baby grew into her. Mr. and Mrs. Oka did their best to take care of her. They made sure she had enough food to eat and a safe place to sleep. They treated her kindly, even though they were very disappointed in Adam. Adam tried to help Ure whenever he could. He wanted to make things right, but he did not know how. He wished he could go back in time and make better choices, but he knew that was not possible. All he could do now was to try and be responsible and help Ure as much as he could. One evening, as Ure was sitting outside, Mrs. Oka came to talk to her. "Ure, I know this is very difficult for you," she said gently, "but we are here for you. You made a mistake, but that does not mean your life is ruined. You can still have a good future." Ure nodded, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, ma," she said softly. "I am very sorry for causing so much trouble. I promise to do my best to make things right." Mrs. Oka smiled kindly. "We believe in you, Ure. We believe you can make things right. Just take one day at a time. And remember, we are here for you." As the days turned into weeks, Ure began to feel a little better. She still worried about the future, but she felt grateful for the support she was getting from Adam's family. She knew she had a lot to learn and a long way to go, but she was determined to do her best for her baby and herself. One evening, Adim and Ure were sitting together, talking about the future. What will happen to us, Adim? Ure asked. What will happen to our baby? Adim took a deep breath. I don't know, Ure, he said honestly, but I promise you this. I will do everything I can to take care of you and our baby. I will work hard and make sure we have a good life. I know I made a mistake, but I want to make it right. Ure looked at him, hope shining in her eyes. Thank you, Adim, she said. I believe in you. We can do this together. As the months passed, Ure's baby grew inside her. Adim and Ure continued to receive support from Adim's parents. They faced many challenges, but they also learned important lessons about responsibility, forgiveness, and love. Days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Uri finally gave birth to a baby girl, a pretty baby girl. Mr. and Mrs. Oka were very happy. They thanked God for granting Uri a safe delivery because they were initially scared she might lose her life. They named the child Ebere. Ebere became Mr. and Mrs. Oka's beloved. They showered her with so much love and also supported Uri in every possible way they could. Adam would always secretly admire Ebere. She was so delighted to behold. He loved watching her tiny hands and feet and hearing her little giggles. Ebere brought so much joy to everyone around her. Ure's parents were notified that she had given birth. They were happy to hear the news but decided to wait until the baby was 9 months old before they visited. During this time, Mr. and Mrs. Oka took care of Ebere as if she was their own daughter. They made sure Uri had everything she needed to take care of the baby. They wanted her to feel supported and loved, even though the situation was difficult. When Ebere was 9 months old, Uri's parents finally came to visit. They were happy to see their daughter and their new grandchild, but they also had a plan. They wanted to take Ure back home so she could continue her education. Ure's father spoke to Mr. and Mrs. Oka about their decision. Please, you people can take it up from here, Ure's father said. We are taking Ure so she can continue her education. Mr. and Mrs. Oka were very sad to hear this. They had grown very fond of Ure and Ebere. They tried to persuade Ure's parents to let Ure stay, but they did not reconsider. Ure's parents were firm in their decision. They believed it was best for Ure to continue her education and build a future for herself and her child. Despite much pleading from the Okas, Ure's parents eventually took Ure home, leaving the child behind. Adam was very sad that the baby was separated from her mother. He knew it would be hard for Ebere to grow up without her mother around. Even his parents were highly disappointed with what Ure's parents did, but they just let everything slide, hoping it was for the best. Mr. and Mrs. Oka continued to take care of Ebere with all their love. They made sure she had everything she needed and more. They wanted to give her a happy and safe home. Adam also did his best to help. He played with Ebere, fed her, and watched over her. He loved her very much and wanted her to feel safe and loved. As the days went by, Ebere grew into a happy and healthy baby. She brought joy to everyone around her. Even though Ure was not there, the Okas did their best to make Ebere feel loved and cared for. They knew they had to be strong for her and give her the best life they could. Adam often thought about Ure. He wondered how she was doing and if she missed Ebere as much as they all missed her. He hoped she was doing well in her studies and that she would come back to see Ebere one day. Mr. and Mrs. Oka continued to pray for Ure and Ebere. They hoped that one day things would work out for the best. They believed that with love and care, they could overcome any challenges that came their way. Mr. Oka thought it was necessary for Adam to also further his education. He believed education was the key to a successful future. So Adam went back to school while his parents helped him take care of Ebere. Years passed and Adam finished university. He got a good job and was doing well for himself. Ebere was already 10 years old by then. She was growing up to be a bright and cheerful girl, thanks to the love and care of Mr. and Mrs. Oka. One evening, Adam sat down with his parents and shared his thoughts. Mama, Papa, I think it's time for me to get married, he said with a hopeful smile. Mr. and Mrs. Oka exchanged a pleased look. They were happy that Adam was ready to settle down. That's wonderful, son, Mr. Oka said. Have you thought about who you want to marry? Adam nodded. Yes, I have. I can't think of anyone else worthy of being my wife except for Ure. His parents gave their approval with a warm smile. They remembered Ure and how much she meant to Adam. They were glad he still had feelings for her and wanted to reunite with her. After Adam had put some things in place and planned things out, he decided to visit Ure's parents' house. He wanted to ask for their blessing and bring Ure back into his life. He was filled with hope and excitement. When he arrived at Ure's parents' house, they were surprised to see him. They welcomed him in, and after some pleasantries, Adam tabled the reasons for his visit. Sir, Ma, I have come to ask for Ure's hand in marriage, Adam said, his voice full of determination. Ure's father looked at him with a serious expression. Adam, I appreciate your intentions, but I must tell you something, he began. Adam felt a knot form in his stomach. He was not prepared for what he was about to hear. Ure got married a year ago, Ure's father revealed. She and her husband live abroad now. Adam was stunned. His heart sank and he felt a wave of disappointment wash over him. He felt like challenging Ure's father because he had warned him from ever contacting Ure. He even went as far as blocking every avenue to reach her. I hope you are happy now, as you have forever separated a child from her mother, Adam said, his voice filled with pain. Hope God has given you an award. Sir, you are very wicked. With that, Adam stood up and left. He was heartbroken and angry. He couldn't believe that Ure's parents had kept him away from her and their child. When Adam got back to his parents' house, he told them everything. Mr. and Mrs. Oka were equally shocked and saddened by the news. They tried to comfort Adam, but he was too upset to listen. Please, I need to pull myself together, Adam said, trying to hold back his tears. I will come around soonest. He then packed his things and returned to his base, leaving his parents worried about his state of mind. Mr. and Mrs. Oka hugged Ebere tightly, promising themselves that they would take even better care of her. They knew she was the key to keeping their family strong and united during this difficult time. As Adam drove back to his base, he felt a mix of emotions. He was angry, hurt, and disappointed. But deep down, he knew he had to stay strong for Ebere. He decided to focus on his work and find a way to move forward, even though it seemed difficult at the moment. Ebere was feeling sad. She loved her grandparents very much, but she had missed her dad. Even though she didn't grow up with him around, she always heard wonderful stories about him from her grandparents. They showed her pictures of Adam, and Ebere dreamed of spending time with him and getting to know him more. However, Adam was too upset and busy with his emotions to give Ebere the attention she longed for. He was still dealing with the pain of finding out that Ure had married someone else. He didn't realize how much Ebere wanted to bond with him. One day, Mrs. Oka noticed that Ebere looked sad. She saw the change in her facial expressions and decided to talk to her. She sat Ebere down and gently asked, "What is wrong, my dear?" Ebere looked up at her grandmother with teary eyes. "Grandma, why doesn't Daddy spend time with me? Doesn't he love me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Mrs. Soka felt a pang in her heart. She pulled Ebere into a warm hug and said, "Oh, sweetie, your daddy loves you very much. He's just going through a tough time right now, but I promise he will come around soon." Ebere wiped her tears and looked up at her grandma. "Will I ever see my mom again?" she asked innocently. Mrs. Soka comforted her gently, stroking her hair. "All will be well, my child. Your mom loves you too, and we'll find a way to make things better." After a few weeks, Mrs. Oka decided to take Ebere to visit her other grandparents, Ure's parents. She thought it might help Ebere feel better and also give Ure's parents a chance to see their granddaughter. When they arrived, Ure's parents were shocked and excited to see how grown Ebere was. Floods of emotions and guilt filled their hearts. "She looks so much like Ure," Ure's mother said with tears in her eyes. They welcomed Ebere with open arms, hugging her and playing with her. They showered her with love and affection, making up for lost time. When it was time to leave, Ure's parents gave Ebere some gifts and promised to keep in touch with her. "We will try to make your mom come visit you, okay?" they said with warm smiles. "We are so sorry for distancing ourselves." They hugged her one last time before she left. "Thank you so much, Mrs. Oka. This is so thoughtful of you," they said gratefully. Mrs. Oka smiled and nodded. "Ebere deserves to know her family," she said. With that, Ebere and her grandmother returned home. Ebere felt so much happier after the visit. She knew she had more people who loved her and that her family cared about her deeply. Back at home, Mrs. Soka continued to support Ebere, reminding her that things would get better with time. She also hoped that Adam would soon realize how much his daughter needed him and start to spend more time with her. Ebere held onto the memories of her visit to her maternal grandparents. She cherished the gifts they gave her and looked forward to the day she would see her mom again. With her grandmother's comforting words and her family's love, she felt hopeful about the future. Ebere was very excited about her visit to her maternal grandparents' house. For weeks, her face had been radiating with smiles. She couldn't stop talking about the warm welcome she received and the gifts they had given her. Her grandparents' love had filled a void in her heart, and she felt happier than she had in a long time. Mrs. Oka noticed the change in Ebere's mood and was glad that the visit had such a positive impact. She knew that family was important and that Ebere needed all the love and support she could get. One sunny afternoon, as Ebere was playing in a garden, Mrs. Oka decided it was time to talk to Adam. She wanted him to understand how much Ebere needed him and how much she had longed to spend time with her father. "Adam," she called gently as she approached him in the living room. "Can we talk for a moment?" Adam looked up from his book and nodded. "Of course, Mama. What's on your mind?" Mrs. Oka sat down beside him and took his hand. "It's about Ebere," she began. "She's been so happy since our visit to Ure's parents, but there's something missing in her life, and that's you." Adam sighed, feeling the weight of his mother's words. "I know, Mama. I've been caught up in my own feelings that I haven't been there for her like I should." Mrs. Oka squeezed his hand. "She needs you, Adam. She needs to know that her father loves her and cares about her. You need to make an effort to spend time with her and build a relationship." Adam nodded slowly, realizing the truth in his mother's words. "You are right, Mama. I've been selfish and it's time I change that. Later that evening, Adam decided to make the first step. He found Ebere in her room, playing with the toys her grandparents had given her. He knocked softly on the door and entered. "Hi, Ebere," he said with a warm smile. Ebere looked up, her eyes brightening. "Hi, Daddy," she exclaimed. Adam sat down beside her. "I was thinking, would you like to spend some time together tomorrow? Maybe we could go to the park or have a picnic." Ebere's face lit up with excitement. "Really? I would love that, Daddy." Adam felt a wave of guilt for not doing this sooner, but also a sense of relief that he was finally making things right. "Great, it's a date then." The next day, Adam and Ebere set out for their picnic. They packed a basket with sandwiches, fruits, and juice and headed to the park. Ebere was thrilled to be spending the day with her father. At the park, they spread out a blanket and sat down on it to eat. As they enjoyed their meal, they talked about all sorts of things. Ebere told Adam about her school, her friends, and her dreams for the future. Adam realized how much he had missed out on and vowed never to let his emotions get in the way of being there for his daughter again. As the sun began to set, they packed up their things and headed home. Ebere held his father's hand tightly, feeling happy and content. "Thank you, Daddy. This was the best day ever," she said, her eyes shining with joy. Adam smiled and kissed her forehead. "Thank you, Ebere. You made my day too." When they got home, Mrs. Oka saw the bond that had formed between them and felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful relationship between father and daughter. In the following weeks, Adam continued to spend quality time with Ebere. They went on more outings, playing games, and shared stories. Adam realized that being a good father meant being present and showing love, and he was determined to be the best father he could be. Ebere was happier than ever. She felt loved and cherished, not only by her grandparents, but by her father as well. She knew that no matter what, her family would always be there for her. As time went on, Adam's parents continued to support and guide him. They were proud of the changes he was making and the effort he was putting into being a good father. They knew that Ebere would grow up surrounded by love and support, and that was all they ever wanted for her. Months passed, and one day, as Adam was returning from work, he met a pretty lady walking along the road. Her beauty captivated him, and he decided to pull over to get her attention. At first, the lady didn't want to stop, but Adam was persistent. "Pretty lady, good evening. Please, I don't bite. I just want to give you a ride to your destination," he said charmingly. "No, thank you. I don't ride with strangers," the lady replied. But Adam wasn't ready to take no for an answer. He kept pushing, trying to convince her. Eventually, the lady agreed to join him in the car. As they drove, they got talking, and Adam found out her name was Joy. When they reached Joy's destination, before she got out of the car, they exchanged phone numbers. "I'll try and keep in touch," Adam told her with a smile. Joy nodded her head, and as time goes on, they became so close and started seeing each other. They became fond of each other, and Adam was soon convinced that Joy would make a wonderful wife. One day, Adam decided to travel to his parents' house to inform them about the new development in his life. On his arrival, after giving Ebere the gifts he had brought for her and exchanging pleasantries, Adam went straight to the reason for his visit. "Papa, Mama, since I came back to make Uri my wife officially and what followed, I think I can't continue to wait. I can't continue like this. Uri is married, and I think it's time I also settle down," he told his parents. "My son, you have tried. It's not your fault that you didn't marry Uri. So you are free to get married so Ebere can have a proper family and younger siblings, his mother, Mrs. Oka, said. His father supported his wife, agreeing that Adam should move on. They were happy that their son was finally taking this step. They wished him well and prayed for him. Adam spent some quality time with Ebere before returning to the city. Ebere was always happy to see her father, and they played and talked about many things. Adam made sure to reassure her that no matter what, she would always be his special little daughter. When Adam returned, he met with Joy and shared his plans for their future. Joy was delighted and ready to embark on this new journey with him. They decided to get to know each other's families better and plan their life together. The next few weeks were busy but filled with joy. Adam introduced Joy to his parents, who welcomed her warmly. They appreciated her kind nature and saw how happy she made their son. Ebere also liked Joy and enjoyed spending time with her. Joy's family also got to meet Adam and were pleased with him. They could see that he was a responsible and caring man who would take good care of their daughter. As time went on, Adam and Joy's bond grew stronger. They planned their wedding with the support and blessings of both families. The wedding day finally arrived, and it was a beautiful and joyous occasion. Friends and families gathered to celebrate Adam and Joy's union. Ebere was the happiest of all, feeling the love and warmth around her. She was thrilled to have a new mother in her life. Adam and Joy's life together began on a happy note. They worked together to create a loving home for Ebere, who flourished under their care. Ebere felt loved and cherished, knowing that her family was complete. Adam never forgot the importance of being there for his daughter. He continued to spend quality time with her, making sure she knew she was special and loved. Joy too embraced her role as a mother and showed Ebere the same love and care. With time, Adam and Joy welcomed more children into their family, Oluchi and Uzamaka. Ebere was excited to have younger siblings and helped take care of them. The house was filled with laughter and love. Despite the challenges they had faced, Adam and his family found joy and contentment in their lives. They supported each other through thick and thin, always putting family first. As the years passed, Ebere grew into a kind and compassionate young woman. She excelled in her studies and pursued her dreams with the encouragement of her family. She knew that no matter what challenges she faced, she could always rely on the love and support of her parents, grandparents, and siblings. Adam and Joy's love for each other remained strong, and they continued to build a happy and fulfilling life together. They were grateful for the journey that had brought them to the point and looked forward to many more years of love and happiness. Adam had been working hard at his job for many years. One day, he received exciting news. He had been promoted. He was so happy and couldn't wait to share the good news with his family. As soon as he got home, he gathered everyone. "I have a great news," Adam announced with a big smile. "What is it, Adam?" "I got promoted at work. This means a better salary and more opportunities for our family," Adam said proudly. Everyone congratulated him and celebrated the wonderful news. Ebere was especially happy for her father and gave him a big hug. Adam thought it was the perfect time to make some improvements for his family, starting with Ebere's education. He believed she deserved the best, so he decided to enroll her in a more expensive school with better facilities. However, when Adam shared his plan with Joy, she wasn't as happy as he expected. "Adam, don't you think that it's a waste of money?" Joy said, trying to hide her jealousy. "Ebere is doing fine where she is. Why spend so much on just one child?" Adam was surprised by Joy's reaction. But Joy, it's for Ebere's future. She deserves the best education we can afford. He insisted. Joy felt jealous because she thought Ebere would get all the benefits while her own daughters Oluchi and Uzamaka were still young and wouldn't get the same attention. But Adam didn't notice her jealousy and went ahead with his plan. Ebere was excited about her new school. She loved learning and was eager to make new friends. But that was when the real trouble started for her. Joy began to treat Ebere unfairly. She assigned Ebere almost all the house chores every morning before school. Since Adam left home very early for work, he wasn't aware of what was happening. Ebere had to wake up very early to finish the chores, but it was too much for her. She often couldn't get to school on time, and her grades started to suffer. Ebere tried her best, but the workload at home was too heavy. When she got her report card, she was heartbroken. Her grades were low, and she knew she could have done better if she had more time to study. She cried when she saw her results. Adam was very disappointed when he saw Ebere's grades. Ebere, you've disappointed me. What kind of grades are these? Please don't make me believe I'm wasting my money, he shouted angrily. Ebere felt terrible. She wanted to explain, but didn't know how to tell her father about the chores without causing more troubles. Meanwhile, Joy was secretly happy because things were going as she wanted. Ebere tried to hide her sadness, but it was too hard. She loved her father and didn't want him to be upset with her. She decided to work even harder, hoping to balance both her chores and her schoolwork. The unfair treatment continued, and Ebere struggled. She woke up early every morning to finish the chores Joy assigned her. Sometimes she was so tired she could barely keep her eyes open in class, but she didn't give up. She knew she had to find a way to improve her grades and make her father proud again. Despite her efforts, Ebere felt lonely and overwhelmed. She wished she could talk to her father, but she didn't want to cause any problem between him and Joy. She hoped that one day things would get better and she could focus on her studies without all the extra chores. As time passed, Ebere's situation at home became worse. Oluchi and Amaka, her younger stepsisters, started treating her like a maid. Every day, Ebere had to serve them, do all the house chores, and listen to their constant ridicule. Joy would always make fun of her in front of the girls, and they would laugh at Ebere until she felt completely humiliated. Amaka, the rudest among them, would often abuse Ebere verbally. She would purposely make a mess just to give Ebere more work to do. Despite being the youngest child, Amaka was always full of herself and enjoyed making Ebere's life difficult. Ebere felt like she was a maid in her own father's house. Every time she tried to talk to her father, he would dismiss her saying, "Ebere, please, can't that wait? I'm busy." She would walk away frustrated and sad, feeling like she had no one to turn to. One Sunday, Adim noticed that his daughter was losing weight. She looked thin and unhealthy, and it gave him great concern. He decided to talk to Joy about it. "Joy, why is Ebere looking so thin and unhealthy these days? Is she sick or something? Is there anything you're not telling me?" he inquired. Joy responded sarcastically, Ebere that has started to flirt around. Why wouldn't she be unhealthy?" Adim was disappointed in her response and fired back. "Please stop that trash. Ebere is too decent for that." Adim smelled something fishy and decided to ask Ebere himself. However, Joy had already signaled Ebere, warning her that if she revealed anything, she would be in big trouble. When her father asked, Ebere lied. I'm struggling to make good grades. So maybe that's why. Ebere wasn't happy that she couldn't express herself to her father now that she had a chance. She just cried and went into her room, feeling more hopeless than ever. The unfair treatment continued, and Ebere's situation didn't improve. She tried to keep up with her schoolwork and chores, but it was too much for her. She felt trapped and alone, with no one to turn to. Despite everything, Ebere didn't give up. She knew she had to find a way to improve her grades and make her father proud again. But with Joy and her stepsisters making her life so difficult, it seemed like an impossible task. Ebere's health continued to decline, and she struggled to keep up with her schoolwork. She knew she needed help, but she didn't know how to get it. Every day was a battle. She tried to stay strong and hopeful. One evening, as she was finishing her chores, Ebere decided she couldn't keep living like this. She needed to find a way to talk to her father without Joy interfering. She had to tell him what was really going on, no matter the consequences. That evening, Ebere waited anxiously for her father to return home. Unknown to her, Adam had called Joy earlier, informing her that he wouldn't be coming home that night due to a crucial meeting that might last until late. Ebere waited in vain, staring out the window, hoping to see her father's car pull up. At about 11:30 p.m., Ebere was still up, looking out. Oh, what might have kept him? She asked aloud, though no one was around to hear. She became frustrated and decided to go to bed, feeling a sense of unease. The next morning, Ebere received news that shocked her to her core. Joy had received a call from an unknown number. Please, madam, on to St. John's Clinic and identify if this corpse is someone you know, the caller said before hanging up. Joy didn't raise any alarm. She rushed out of the house, looking unkempt and worried. Ebere was shocked and puzzled by her stepmother's sudden departure. She wondered what could have made Joy leave so hastily. About an hour later, Joy returned home with a grave expression on her face. She broke the devastating news. Adam was dead. He had been deposited in the morgue. Based on information she received, Adam had been driving home early that morning after the late night meeting. He felt drowsy and didn't notice a reckless truck driver approaching from the opposite direction. They collided and the damage was terrible. Adam hit his head against the dashboard and that was it. Ebere cried bitterly. God, why now? Please take me also. I can't bear this pain alone, she wailed. Her grandparents tried to comfort her. Despite their own immense grief, they understood how important Adam was in Ebere's life and the immense void his death would leave. Ebere's world crumbled around her. The one person who had always been there for her, who loved her unconditionally, was gone. She felt lost and alone, despite the comforting presence of her grandparents. Joy, meanwhile, seemed unfazed by the tragedy. She didn't show any signs of grief or sorrow, which puzzled and hurt Ebere even more. Ebere's heart ached with the pain of losing her father and the coldness she felt from her stepmother. Days turned into weeks, and the household struggled to cope with the loss. Ebere's grandparents did their best to provide her with love and support, but the absence of her father was a wound that seemed impossible to heal. Ebere's school performance suffered even more as she grappled with her grief. She felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, and the house chores that Joy imposed on her didn't help. She struggled to find a way to move forward without her father. One night, as Ebere lay in bed, tears streaming down her face, she whispered to herself, I have to be strong. Daddy wouldn't want me to give up. I have to make him proud. The burial arrangements were made, and Adam's parents ensured he was given a befitting burial. The ceremony was filled with tears and sorrow as family and friends gathered to say their final goodbyes. Ebere was inconsolable, feeling the immense loss of her father deeply. She clung to her grandparents for support, but the pain of losing her father was overwhelming. After the burial, life seemed to return to normal for Joy and her children, Oluchi and Amaka. However, for Ebere, things only got worse. Adam had handed over his assets to Joy, trusting that she would share them among the girls if anything went wrong. This meant Joy was now in charge, and she used her newfound power to make Ebere's life miserable. Joy successfully cut off Adam's parents, isolating Ebere even further. She took pleasure in humiliating Ebere and assigning her the most tedious chores. On one of these days, Mr. Oka visited the house. He looked tired and worried. Joy, my wife is terribly sick and needs medication. Please, I am pleading with you for some financial assistance, Mr. Oka asked humbly. Joy looked at him coldly. I'm sorry, Mr. Oka, but I can't help you, she replied without a hint of compassion. Without proper care, Mrs. Oka's condition worsened, and she passed away. Ebere cried like never before. She had lost the one person who treated her like a biological mother. Her heart ached with a deep sadness, but she found some consolation in her grandfather's presence. However, Mr. Oka couldn't stand the loss of his wife, and he joined her in death the following month. Ebere felt utterly hopeless. It's finally finished, she exclaimed, feeling as though her entire world had collapsed. Joy conducted the burials respectively, but after that, she made Ebere her project of wickedness. Ebere had finished secondary school, but Joy denied her the opportunity to go to the university. Ebere decided to live her life as it came, enduring the daily torment from Joy. As time passed, Joy started getting irritated by Ebere's presence and began looking for ways to dispose her of. One day, a poor-looking man came to her house in search of Amaka. Joy was curious why such a man would be looking for her precious daughter. The man identified himself as Charles. I came to seek Amaka's hand in marriage, he explained. Ha! I have suffered. Me, Amaka, a beggar, coming for my hand in marriage. God will punish you, Amaka shouted at the man. But as all this drama unfolded, Joy had other plans popping into her head. She calmed Amaka down and then politely told the man, Amaka is taken, but I have someone else for you. My first daughter, Ebere, is available. Charles accepted the offer and thanked Joy, promising to bring his kinsmen for the marriage rites. Ebere was shocked and heartbroken when she learned about Joy's plan. She couldn't believe that her stepmother was willing to marry her off to a man she barely knew just to get rid of her. As the days passed, Ebere's despair grew. She felt trapped and helpless, unable to escape Joy's cruelty. The thought of being forced into a marriage with a stranger filled her with dread. She longed for her father's presence and guidance, wishing he were there to protect her. Despite the overwhelming sadness, Ebere tried to stay strong. She knew she had to find a way to survive and make a better life for herself, no matter the obstacle. With each passing day, she held onto the hope that someday she would find a way to break free from Joy's control and live the life she deserved. A month later, Charles, the poor-looking man, returned with his family to do the needful. When they arrived, Charles spoke to Joy, explaining that he didn't have enough money to pay for everything. I can only pay the dowry now. I promise to pay the rest little by little as I earn more money, he said earnestly. Please don't worry. The dowry is enough. Leave the rest, Joy assured him with a smile. Charles was surprised by Joy's willingness to marry off her daughter so easily. Let it not be that she is blind or lame, he thought to himself, puzzled by her eagerness. Inside the house, Ebere was crying. She wasn't given any special clothes to wear for the occasion, just her normal everyday attire. Despite her tears, she had made up her mind to go with a stranger rather than stay with a family that didn't want her to be happy. I would rather die with a stranger than die in these people's hands, she whispered to herself. The bride, your husband's people want you, Amaka said mockingly as she entered the room. Ebere wiped her tears and stepped out to meet Charles and his family. As soon as Charles saw her, he was immediately drawn to her. Thank God, she's such an angel, even without makeup, he whispered to himself, too quietly for anyone else to hear. After all the necessary formalities, Charles took Ebere home. The journey was quiet, with Ebere feeling a mix of relief and fear about what lay ahead. Later that evening, Amaka and Oluchi approaching their mother with questions. Mom, why did you give Ebere away so cheaply? Oluchi asked. I want her to go and suffer with that frustrated, stinking man. Hunger will certainly kill them, Joy replied, laughing loudly. Amaka and Oluchi joined in the laughter. Ha, Mommy, you are a genius, Oluchi praised her mother. But Mommy, she was still useful around here. Who will do all the chores now? Amaka asked, making a face. Don't worry, my daughters. I will employ someone to do all that. Let that girl get lost. She is no longer needed here, Joy assured them. They hugged their mother and went their separate ways, feeling satisfied with the outcome. Joy felt a sense of fulfillment. Finally, my daughters will have all their father's wealth, she said to herself, feeling accomplished. Ebere, now in her new home, faced an uncertain future. Despite the challenges ahead, she held on to a glimmer of hope that life with Charles might be better than what she had endured with Joy and her stepsisters. Ebere and Charles arrived at Charles's house in a slum area. The first week, they used the time to get to know each other better. Charles shared that he was doing menial jobs like pushing wheelbarrows to survive. Ebere in turn shared her side of the story. No wonder she was comfortable giving you out so easily. No same mother would do that. She wanted you to get married so you would continue to suffer. Ebere didn't say anything. She just sat there staring at him with tears rolling down her cheeks. She resolved to work hard and help Charles make ends meet. Ebere started with the little money she had, hawking sachet water. After some time, she saved up enough money to start more lucrative business, selling cooked food, which she carried around to sell. Charles was proud of the woman he had married and never ceased to appreciate her sacrifices. One day, while Ebere was selling her rice, she bumped into Amaka. Amaka laughed at her scornfully upon sighting her. Chai, poor girl, this new life really suits you, Amaka mocked. Ebere just walked past her and continued her business. After about 2 months, Ebere had saved up some money. She gave it to Charles to start up a business. My husband, please take this 100,000 naira and do a more productive business so we can help ourselves, she said lovingly. Charles was shocked. He hugged her, tears dropping from his eyes. I will never let you down, You deserve everything good. In no time, you will smile again, he said, patting her back. He collected the money, and after 2 days, he informed Ebere that he wanted them to travel to his hometown to buy goods for his new business. After much hesitation, Ebere agreed to go with him. Upon their arrival, she was shocked to find themselves at a very magnificent house. Servants surrounded them, bowing and greeting Charles. Ebere could not understand what was happening. Suddenly, his parents came out, all well dressed. She recognized them as the people who had come to marry her. "My son, welcome back home. You made it." And believe me, she was worth all the stress, Charles' father said. "Come here," his mother said, giving Ebere a tight hug. Charles explained to Ebere his real identity. He was actually a wealthy prince in search of an honest and reliable queen. Ebere couldn't believe her ears. For a second, she felt like she was dreaming. His father commanded the palace costumier to dress them up accordingly, and a great feast was held in their honor. Ebere was overwhelmed with joy. The kindness and strength she had shown during trials had led her to a place of great honor and love. She felt grateful and blessed as she stepped into her new life as a queen, ready to embrace the happiness that awaited her. Back at Joy's house, things had taken a turn for the worse. Due to her mismanagement, she squandered all the money Adam had left behind. Joy now lived at the mercy of her daughter's earnings from dubious activities and the remnants of her past glory. One sunny day, Joy sat at the veranda, lost in thought. Suddenly, she saw magnificent cars driving into the compound. At first, she thought it was her daughters bringing prospective clients. But when the occupants of the car alighted, she could barely recognize anyone there. It was Ebere's voice that gave her away. "Ma'am, thank you so much for releasing this angel to me. She's all I've ever wanted and even more," Charles said to Joy, exchanging pleasantries. Joy stood with her mouth wide open, unable to say anything. Ebere also thanked her for directing her to her destiny helper. As this was going on, Amaka and Oluchi walked in, equally shocked. "Ma'am, I'll be coming back in 1 week to properly marry my wife. So please inform everyone who needs to be informed," Charles said, interrupting their stunned silence. But before they left, Charles handed Joy a whopping sum of 5 million naira as appreciation. "Jesus!" they all shouted when they saw the alert on Joy's phone. Amaka started crying and blaming her mother for giving away her billionaire suitor. "Because of your greed," she cried. "Shut up, you fool. Were you not the one who rejected him first?" Her mother fired back. As promised, Charles returned a week later, and their wedding was the talk of town. For a long time, Ebere got everything she had always wanted in life. She was finally happy, loved, and cherished. Joy and her daughters could only watch and regret their actions as Ebere's life blossomed beautifully. They realized too late that their greed and malice had cost them dearly. The most important lesson in this story is that resilience and kindness in face of adversity can lead to unexpected and transformative rewards. Ebere, despite facing severe mistreatment and hardship, chose to remain compassionate and hardworking. Her perseverance and integrity not only helped her overcome her struggles, but also led her to a life of love and fulfillment. The story teaches us that staying true to our values and persevering through difficult times can ultimately lead us to a better and more rewarding future. Once upon a time, in a small peaceful village, there lived a young man named Chike. He was kind, hardworking, and well loved by everyone. Chike had a big heart and a successful business in the village market. One day, he met a beautiful young woman named Olako. She worked as a sales representative at an electronic shop in the same market. Olako was gentle, caring, and always had a smile on her face. Chike and Olako quickly became friends, and soon their friendship blossomed into love. They enjoyed each other's company and spent many days together. They walked through the fields, talked under the stars, and laughed a lot. Their love was so deep and true that nothing seemed capable of separating them. After a year of dating, Chike decided to ask Olako to marry him. Olako was overjoyed and said yes immediately. They both knew that they wanted to spend the rest of their lives together. Chike wanted to share the happy news with his mother, so he took Olako to meet her. Chike's mother, however, did not approve of his choice. She believed that Olako was not a suitable match for her son. She is from a poor home, she said. No one knows them in this village. She is practically the one taking care of her family. If you marry her, the responsibility will be shifted to you. But Chike's mind was made up. Mama, Ulaku is the woman for me. Please let me worry about everything else, he said gently. His mother eventually gave up trying to change his mind. She did not want to lose her son's affection, but she quietly promised herself that she would deal with Ulako after the marriage. A date was chosen for the wedding, and Chike and Ulako were filled with joy. They invited the entire village to their wedding celebration. It was a grand event with music, dancing, and lots of delicious food. Everyone celebrated their union, and it was a day filled with happiness and love. After the party, Chike and Olako returned to start their life together as husband and wife. They were very happy, and everything seemed perfect. After about 2 weeks of their honeymoon, Olako approached her husband with a request. Dim, meaning my husband, I would like to go back to my job at the electronic shop, she said. I enjoy working and it helps me feel useful. But Chike was not happy with this idea. Never. My wife can never slave for anyone, he replied. Ulaku pleaded with him, but Chike insisted that she quit her job. He promised to set up a business for her, so she should work on her own terms. Ulaku reluctantly agreed for the sake of marital peace. She used her savings to help her mother start a small provision store, ensuring her family's survival without burdening her husband. Their marriage continued to be harmonious, and soon Ulaku became pregnant. Chike was overjoyed and pampered her with love and care. Despite his growing discomfort with her changing body and her new eating habits, he concluded that it was all because of the baby. Chike provided every assistance his wife needed, making sure she was always comfortable and happy. However, Chike's mother was not pleased with all the attention he was giving Ulaku. She felt jealous and worried that Ulaku would take her son away from her. One evening, she said, You are pampering her too much, Chike. Don't spoil her. Mama, if I don't pamper her, who will? Chike replied, smiling. He wanted to make sure that Ulaku was happy and well taken care of, especially during her pregnancy. Despite his mother's disapproval, Chike continued to shower Ulaku with love and care. He knew that his wife's happiness was important for their growing family. Chike believed that a happy wife would make a happy home. Chike and Olaku's bond grew stronger with each passing day. and they looked forward to welcoming their new baby into their loving home. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Ulaku's belly grew larger as she got closer to her due date. Chike was excited to become a father and took extra care of Ulaku. One night, Ulaku felt a sharp pain and knew it was time for the baby to come. Chike, the baby is coming, Ulaku cried out in pain. Chike quickly helped her to the midwife's house. The night was long and hard. Ulaku was in a lot of pain and Chike stayed by her side, holding her hand. The midwife worked hard to help Ulaku deliver the baby. After what felt like forever, the baby finally came out. But something was wrong. The baby was not crying. The midwife checked the baby and shook her head sadly. The baby had passed away. Ulaku was already very weak and fainted when she heard the news. Chike was heartbroken. He had been looking forward to becoming a father. When Ulaku woke up, she cried uncontrollably. Chike tried to comfort her, but he was also very sad. The death of their child hurt him deeply. He started to feel angry and blamed Ulaku for their baby's death. "It was your overeating that suffocated my daughter," he shouted one day, his voice full of anger and pain. This tragedy changed Chike. His love for Ulaku turned into anger and contempt. He started to treat her badly, shouting at her and sometimes hitting her. His mother didn't help matters either. "Didn't I tell you? When you were pampering her and spoiling her, she became lazy. She couldn't even push a baby out," his mother said one day when Chike was abusing Ulaku. Ulaku would always cry her eyes out. She was very sad and couldn't believe how much her life had changed. Chike's mother had never approved of their marriage and now used every opportunity to make Ulaku's life miserable. Ulaku often wondered if this was the same man she fell in love with and married. Chike was hardly ever at home these days. Sometimes he returned home drunk. When he was drunk, he became even more abusive. Ulaku became a punching bag. She would cry herself to sleep, feeling lonely and afraid. Ulaku kept silent about her suffering. She didn't want to open up to anyone because she couldn't bear the shame of going back to her father's house to join her poor mother. Although her mother was never in support of her marriage at first, because she had heard all the things Chike's mother was saying in the village about them. Ulaku had insisted. Her mother couldn't stop her. Many times, Ulaku's mother would visit her and ask if she was okay. Ulaku would always say everything was fine, feigning a smile. Ulaku's mother brought herbs for her to heal quickly. "Please take these herbs regularly so you can heal fast and conceive again," she said on one of her visits. "Thank you, Mama," Ulaku replied, forcing a smile. One day, Ulaku's mother came visiting again. Chike's mother insulted her. "Beggar, have you come to beg for food again? Since my son married into your miserable family, you people will not let him rest," Chike's mother abused. Ulaku's mother was shocked that such words could come from an elderly woman. After seeing her daughter, she left heartbroken. Ulaku cried but continued living as if nothing was happening. However, things got worse. Chike started body shaming her, calling her fat and accusing her of only being interested in eating and getting fat. He told her that her womb couldn't hold a child. Sometimes, he would sit and nag, telling her how poor her family was. He said that if her parents weren't poor, they wouldn't have let her marry at such an early age. He accused her of marrying him for his money. Whenever she tried to talk, he would shut her up with a smile. He later told her that he only married her because his family members were pressuring him to get married and that he was not ready and never loved her. Many nights, Ulaku sat awake, crying and praying. She felt so alone and helpless. Despite everything, Ulako didn't want to leave Chike. She couldn't bear the thought of going back to her father's house and adding more problems to her mother's life. After some months, Ulako became pregnant again. She told Chike the news. He received it with mixed emotions, but he slowed down in maltreating her. He also reduced her eating habits and laid down some strict rules. Ulako tried as much as possible to keep the rules. Despite his harshness, Ulako hoped that this pregnancy would bring some joy back into their lives. She took care of herself, followed the rules Chike had set, and prayed for a healthy baby. Chike's mother continued to be mean to her, but Ulako tried to ignore it and focus on her baby. Each day, Ulako silently hoped for a change. She wanted to see the loving Chike she once knew. She wanted her husband to love her and their unborn child. She prayed for strength to endure and for happiness to return to their home. Olako's pregnancy was progressing and she tried to stay positive despite everything. But when she reached her third month, something terrible happened. One day, she felt a sharp pain in her belly that was so unbearable she could hardly move. Panicking, she sent a neighbor's child to call Chike from his shop. When the child reached Chike's shop and told him about Olako's condition, he nonchalantly said, "Tell her to go to the hospital." Before Ulako got to the clinic, she could barely walk. She felt something wet in her underwear. Struggling, she finally made it to the hospital. The nurses rushed her to the emergency room. The doctor examined her and shook his head. Ulako knew something was wrong. Still in pain, she asked, "Doctor, hope my baby is okay." Her voice trembled, almost in tears. The doctor forced a smile and said, "Yeah, but where is your husband?" "He's at the shop," Ulako answered. Just then, she let out a painful scream. The doctor immediately started working on her. He successfully carried out the procedure, but Ulako cried her eyes out. She had lost the baby again. Later that evening, Chike came to the village clinic to check on Ulako. When he received the news, he paid the bills and walked away without saying much. Ulako was not surprised. She stayed alone in the clinic, feeling more abandoned than ever. After 3 days, she was discharged. When Ulako got home, she was shocked to see her husband with another woman. She entered the room and then returned to ask her husband why he had abandoned her in the clinic. "Dim, what did I do for you to forget me in the hospital like that? And here you are having fun with this strange woman?" Ulako asked, her voice filled with hurt and confusion. But Chike didn't let her finish before giving her a resounding slap. "How dare you question me? You can't even give birth to children, but you have the guts to question me," he shouted angrily. Ulako felt a stinging pain on her cheek from the slap and an even deeper pain in her heart. She stood there, tears streaming down her face, feeling completely helpless. The strange woman which Chike just watched, seemingly amused by the situation, Ulako retreated to her room, her heart heavy with sorrow. She couldn't understand how Chike, the man she had once loved so deeply, could turn into someone so cruel. She lay on her bed, crying silently, praying for a miracle to change her situation. Despite everything, Ulako decided to stay strong. She knew she had to find a way to survive this nightmare. Each day was a struggle, but she held on to the hope that one day things would get better. She thought of her mother's words and the strength she had shown in difficult times. Days turned into weeks, and Ulako continued to endure Chike's abuse. She tried to avoid confrontations and did her best to follow the rules he had set for her. But the pain of losing her baby and the constant mistreatment from Chike and his mother weighed heavily on her heart. Ulako continued to lock herself inside the house, pretending to her mother that everything was fine. 2 years had passed and she hadn't gotten pregnant again. She was scared and worried that Chike might get another woman pregnant. Every night, she would pray to God to help her and see her through these tough times. Chike had reduced the amount of money he gave her for food. One day, Ulako was very hungry. She even went to her mother-in-law for help. Mama, please can I have a little food? Chike didn't give me money for food, she pleaded. Look at this witch that is eating her babies. Why are you hungry? Don't you have babies to eat? Chike's mother fired back at her. Hearing that, Ulako turned around and went back to her house. She stayed indoors, yearning from hunger until evening when her husband returned. Dean, welcome. How was your day? Please, I am hungry. I haven't eaten all day, Ulako said gently to her husband. What are you eating for? It's been 5 years now, and you can't give me a child. All you do is sit and eat my food. Please get out of my way. Chike fired back harshly with a scornful look. Ulako's heart sank. She had hoped for some kindness from Chike, but his words cut deep into her soul. She quietly stepped aside, tears welling up in her eyes. She felt so alone and helpless. Later that night, Ulako sat in her room, crying silently. She thought about how different her life had become. Once she was happy and full of hope. Now she was constantly scared and sad. She wondered if things would ever get better. Despite the harsh treatment, Ulako still prayed every day. She prayed for a miracle, for a child, and for Chike to change. She didn't know how much longer she could endure this, but she kept holding on to her faith. Days turned into weeks, and Ulako continued to suffer in silence. She rarely left the house, except to go to the market. She avoided Chike's mother and tried to stay out of trouble. But the constant hunger and sadness were taking a toll on her. One day, Ulako's mother visited her again. As always, Ulako pretended that everything was fine. She put on a fake smile and told her mother that she was okay. Are you sure you are all right, my daughter? Her mother asked, looking concerned. Yes, Mama, I'm fine, just a little tired. Ulako lied. Her mother wasn't convinced, but she didn't push further. She handed Ulako some food she had brought and left, praying for her daughter's well-being. Ulako was grateful for the food, but it wasn't enough to fill the emptiness in her heart. She continued to pray and hope for a change. She dreamed of a day when she would hold her own baby and when Chike would love her again. One evening, while Ulako was praying, Chike came home drunk. He stumbled into the house, shouting and causing a scene. Ulako tried to calm him down, but he pushed her away. Stop pretending to care. You can't even give me a child, and you think you can tell me what to do, Chike yelled. Ulako felt a sharp pain in her chest. She didn't know how much longer she could take this, but she kept silent, not wanting to provoke him further. The night was long and filled with tears for Ulako. She prayed for strength to endure and for a miracle to change her situation. She hoped that one day things would get better and she would find happiness again. Chike and Ulako's marriage had changed. Romance was a thing of the past. Now, whenever Chike wanted to go intimate with Ulako, it was always by force. One night, he forced himself on her again. Ulako felt hurt and helpless. She missed the love they once shared. The following month, Ulako discovered she was pregnant. She was both happy and scared. She didn't know what fate had in store for her, so she kept the news to herself. She prayed that this time things would be different and that the baby would be healthy. One night, Chike returned from the market. He was in a bad mood and didn't say much. After dinner, He tried to forcefully take advantage of Ulako again. She pleaded with him, tears in her eyes. Please, Chike, not this night. I am not feeling well, Ulako begged. Chike ignored her and continued to force himself on her. Desperate, Ulako screamed, I'm pregnant! Chike paused immediately. He looked at her with surprise and then hissed in annoyance. Without saying a word, he left her there and went to sleep in the sitting room that night. Ulako felt a mix of relief and sadness. She hoped that the news of the baby would change things, but she wasn't sure. The next morning, Chike acted as if nothing had happened. He didn't mention the pregnancy and went about his usual routine. Ulako didn't know what to expect. She wanted to believe that Chike would be happy about the baby, but his reaction made her uncertain. Days turned into weeks, and Ulako continued to keep to herself. She took care of her health and prayed for the baby's safety. She tried to avoid any conflict with Chike and his mother, who continued to treat her badly. One afternoon, Ulako's mother visited again. Ulako wanted to tell her mother about the pregnancy but was afraid. She didn't want to raise her mother's hopes only to disappoint her again if something went wrong. How are you, my daughter? Her mother asked, looking worried. I am fine, Mama, Ulako replied, forcing a smile. Her mother looked at her closely. Are you sure? You don't look well. Ulako nodded, trying to hold back her tears. Yes, Mama, just a little tired. Her mother sighed and handed her some food. Please take care of yourself, Ulako. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to tell me. Ulako nodded, grateful for her mother's love and support. She watched her mother leave and felt a pang of guilt for not sharing the news. But she wasn't ready to talk about it yet. One night, Chike came home late. He was drunk and stumbled into the house. Ulako tried to help him, but he pushed her away. Leave me alone, he shouted. You are just a burden to me. Ulako's heart sank. She went to her room and cried silently. She prayed for strength and for the safety of her baby. She hoped that one day things would get better and that Chike would change. As the weeks passed, Ulako took extra care of herself. She ate healthy food and rested as much as she could. She avoided any stress and prayed constantly. She wanted to believe that this baby would bring happiness back into her life. Despite everything, Ulako kept her faith. She knew she had to stay strong for the baby. She hoped that one day Chike would see the love and strength she had and that their lives would change for the better. Ulako's life continued to be full of pain and sorrow. She had hoped her pregnancy would bring some joy, but as usual, at 2 months, she miscarried again. This time, it wasn't as bad as the previous ones, but it still broke her heart. She cried uncontrollably as the midwife cleaned her up. After the midwife finished, Ulako couldn't go home right away. She was scared of what she would face at home, but she knew she had to go back. So she summoned all her courage and went home. As soon as she entered the house, her mother-in-law started taunting her. Witch, have you eaten another one? Tofiakwa, Amusu, she cursed Ulako, calling her a witch in their language. Ulako felt a fresh wave of pain from the cruel words. She tried to ignore her mother-in-law and went into her room. But the torment didn't stop there. Chike came home later and released his own poison. So you have sworn you will not give me a child. Get ready. Your days are numbered in this house. I will bring someone who can give me what you can't. He shouted at her and then left the house. Ulako was left alone in her misery. She cried until she had no more tears left. She felt completely alone and hopeless. She didn't know what to do or where to turn. The people who were supposed to love and support her were the ones hurting her the most. The next day, Ulako's mother visited. She saw her daughter's swollen eyes and knew something was wrong. "Ulako, my daughter, what has happened?" she asked gently. "Mama, I lost the baby again," Ulako whispered, her voice full of sorrow. "Oh, my child," her mother said, hugging her tightly. "I am so sorry, but you must be strong." "I don't know how much more I can take, Mama," Ulako cried. "Chike and his mother hate me. They blame me for everything." Her mother looked at her with tears in her own eyes. "You are a strong woman, Ulako. Do not let them break you. Keep praying and stay strong for yourself." Ulako nodded, trying to find some strength in her mother's words. She knew she had to keep going, even though it was hard. She promised herself that she would not let Chike and his mother destroy her spirit. Days turned into weeks, and Ulako continued to endure the taunts and abuse. She prayed every day for strength and for a miracle. She hoped that one day things would change. One evening, as Ulako was preparing dinner, Chike came home with another woman. He introduced her as his new wife. Ulako felt her heart shatter into pieces. She stood there, unable to say a word. "This is Amara. She will stay here with us from now on," Chike said coldly. Ulako couldn't believe what she was hearing. She felt betrayed and humiliated, but she didn't have the strength to fight. She went to her room and cried herself to sleep. The next morning, Ulako woke up with a heavy heart. She knew her life had changed forever. She had to find a way to survive in this new reality. She prayed for strength and guidance. As the days went by, Ulako continued to do her best. She took care of the house and stayed out of the way as much as possible. She avoided any confrontation with Chike and his new wife. One afternoon, Ulako's mother visited again. She saw the new woman in the house and understood what had happened. "Ulako, my daughter, you must be strong," her mother said. "Remember that you are not alone. God is with you, and I am always here for you." Ulako nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope in her mother's words. She knew she had to keep going no matter how difficult it was. She prayed for the strength to face each day and for a better future. When Ulako's mother got home, she was worried sick for her daughter. She never ceased praying for God's intervention. "Ulo, my daughter, has suffered a lot in this life. She deserves better than what she is seeing," she thought to herself. Meanwhile, the girl Chike brought home, Amara, was treated like a queen by his mother. Chike's mother would cook food and give it to Amara to take to Chike at his shop. She had instructed Amara to try win Chike's heart. One day, Chike made out with Amara. A month later, Amara came to Chike's mother to lie that she was pregnant for Chike. His mother was so excited. "That witch, Ulako, will finally leave my son," she said with glee. But Ulako didn't leave the house when she saw the girl. She tried all she could to avoid Amara, but Amara would deliberately trouble her. She turned Ulako into her maid, all in the name of being pregnant. Ulako endured all her torture. One day, Amara slapped Ulako because the food was not prepared on time. Ulako didn't retaliate. She waited for her husband to return. "Dim, Amara slapped me today simply because the food was delayed a bit. Please tell me, am I Amara's maid in this house?" Ulako complained to Chike. "Will you shut up? Why would you delay her food? Don't you know she's carrying my child? Do you want to kill her child?" Chike replied harshly. With tears in her eyes, Ulako went inside and packed her things. She couldn't take it anymore. As she was leaving, Amara teased her. "Please make sure you don't return," Amara taunted. Ulako left the house, her heart heavy with sorrow. She walked slowly to her mother's house, feeling every bit of the pain from her husband's betrayal and the cruelty she had endured. When she reached her mother's house, she broke down in tears. Mama, I can't take it anymore. Chike has changed. He doesn't love me. He brought another woman into our house and she treats me like a slave, Ulako cried. Her mother held her tightly. My daughter, you have suffered so much, but you are strong. We will get through this together. You are not alone, she said, comforting Ulako. Days passed, and Ulako tried to find some peace. She helped her mother with chores and tried to distract herself from her pain. She prayed for strength and hoped that one day things would get better. Back at Chike's house, Amara continued to pretend she was pregnant. She enjoyed the attention and care from Chike and his mother. But as weeks turned into months, it became clear that there was no baby. One morning, Chike's mother confronted Amara. Amara, it's been months now. Where is the baby? She asked suspiciously. Amara tried to lie again, but it was obvious. I I don't know. Maybe there was a mistake, she stammered. Chike's mother was furious. You lied to us. You are not pregnant. You are a fraud, she shouted. Chike overheard the conversation and was equally angry. Get out of my house, Amara. You deceived me and my family. Leave now, he demanded. Amara left in shame, and Chike's mother was left feeling betrayed. But she didn't want to admit her mistake. She still blamed Olako for everything. Chike was left alone, feeling a mixture of anger and regret. He realized he had mistreated Olako and driven her away. He missed her presence in the house, her kindness and her patience. He knew he had made a terrible mistake. After a week of regret, Chike tried to move on with his life. His mother kept feeding him and was already arranging for another girl to take Olaku's place. Meanwhile, at Olaku's parents' house, she was beginning to have a better time. She felt safer and loved by her family. But she sometimes still thought about Chike and what might have been. One day, her mother came home with news. Ulako, I talked to the pastor today. He said that Chike is under a spell. We need to intensify our prayers, she said with concern. Under a spell? Ulako asked. What do you mean, Mama? Her mother explained. The pastor revealed that your mother-in-law never wanted her son to marry you. She wanted someone she could manipulate. She tried many times to harm you, but your spirit was strong. She was happy when you lost your child and decided to turn Chike against you. Olako was stunned. How could she do this? I never did anything to her, she said, tears forming in her eyes. The pastor urged them to be calm and continue praying. Soon, your husband will come to his senses, he said. Olako and her mother started fasting and praying fervently. The pastor joined them and they prayed day and night for Chike's deliverance. Miracles began to happen and their faith grew stronger. One day, Chike was at his shop, lost in thought. He missed Olako a great deal. He thought about all the things he had done to her and felt remorseful. What actually made me do these things to my wife? It wasn't her fault that she miscarried our children, Chike said to himself. He felt genuinely bad for everything he had done to Olako and resolved to go and beg for her forgiveness. That evening, Chike went home and told his mother about his intentions. Mama, I need to go and ask Olako for forgiveness. I was wrong, he said sincerely. His mother was shocked. She just nodded her head, but her mind was racing. It's obvious Chike is no longer under my influence. I have to do something before the evil girl returns, she thought to herself. She decided to rest before taking any action, but when she woke up, it was already the next day. Chike had already left for Olako's house early in the morning. He was determined to make things right. When he arrived, he knocked on the door, feeling nervous. Olako's mother opened the door. Chike, what do you want? She asked. I came to see Olako. I want to apologize. I have realized that I was wrong, Chike said sincerely. Ulako came to the door, her heart pounding. What do you want, Chike? She asked, trying to hold back her emotions. I am so sorry, Ulako. I treated you terribly. I was under a spell, but now I see clearly. Please forgive me, he pleaded. Ulako looked at her mother, who nodded. It's up to you, my daughter. After much pleading from Chike and with her mother's consent, Ulako finally agreed. I will forgive you, Chike, but I need time. I will come back in the evening, she said. Chike was relieved. Thank you, Ulako. I will wait for you, he said and left for his shop, not wanting to go back home just yet. Back at Chike's house, his mother was frantically trying to get up, but she couldn't. She screamed, but Chike was not there to help her. She was trapped by her own schemes and had no one to blame but herself. Ulako packed her things, ready to return to Chike's house. She felt a mix of hope and fear, but trusted that God would protect her and that Chike had truly changed. The evening came, and Ulako made her way back to the house, praying that this time things would be different. When Ulako got home, Chike wasn't back yet. She entered the house and was just putting her things away when she heard Chike's mother screaming his name. Ulako was hesitant, but she decided to check on her. As she was about to go, Chike showed up, and they both rushed into his mother's room. They found her on the floor, crying. As soon as she saw Ulako, she started pleading for forgiveness. Ulako, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. I am the one behind the death of your child and the miscarriages you have had, she confessed, sobbing uncontrollably. Ulako was stunned. She couldn't believe her ears. What did you say? She asked, her voice trembling. Chike's mother continued, I never wanted you to marry my son. I did everything to make you leave, but you stayed strong. I even resorted to using dark magic to harm you and turn Chike against you. But now, I realize my mistakes. Please forgive me. Chike was in shock as well. Mama, how could you do this? You made me hurt the woman I love, he said, feeling a mixture of anger and sorrow. Ulako took a deep breath. She looked at Chike's mother, who was still on the floor pleading. She felt a surge of emotions, anger, sadness and pity. She remembered all the suffering she had endured because of this woman. But then, she also remembered the prayers, the pastor's words, and the strength she had found within herself. I don't know if I can forgive you, Mama, Ulako said softly, tears streaming down her face. You have caused me so much pain, but I also know that holding on to this anger will only hurt me more. Chike's mother continued to cry. Please, Ulako, I am truly sorry. I will do anything to make things right. Chike held Ulako's hand. Ulo, you are the strongest person I know. I am so sorry for everything. Can we start over? Can we heal from this together? He asked, his eyes filled with regret and hope. Ulako looked into Chike's eyes. She saw the sincerity and the pain. She took another deep breath and nodded. We can try, Chike, but it will take time. Chike nodded. I understand. Thank you, Ulako. Turning to his mother, Chike said, Mama, you need to make amends. You need to pray and seek forgiveness, not just from us, but from God. Chike's mother nodded. I will, Chike. I promise. The atmosphere in the room was heavy with emotion, but there was also a sense of relief. The truth was finally out, and it was the first step towards healing. The night Ulako and Chike sat together talking about everything that had happened, they cried, they laughed, and they started to rebuild the trust that had been broken. The next day, Chike's mother began her journey of repentance. She went to the pastor and confessed her sins. She prayed and asked for forgiveness, not only from Ulako and Chike, but also from God. And as days went by, Ulako slowly started to feel more at peace. She still had moments of pain and doubt, but with Chike's support and their renewed faith, she began to heal. Chike too changed. He became more attentive, more loving, and more committed to making their marriage work. He realized that he had almost lost the most important person in his life because of his mother's manipulation and his own weakness. Ulako's mother continued to pray for them, offering her support and love. She was relieved to see her daughter happy again and hopeful for the future. As time went on, Ulako and Chike faced their challenges together. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were determined to make it work. Their love, faith, and the lessons they had learned gave them the strength to move forward. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the peace that settled over Ulako and Chike's home was a welcome change for the tumultuous past. Chike's mother continued her journey of repentance, and though the road was long, she steadily made amends for her actions. She even began to help Ulako around the house, showing genuine remorse for her past behavior. Ulako and Chike attended counseling sessions with their pastor, seeking to rebuild their trust and strengthen their marriage. The sessions helped them communicate better and understand each other's pain and needs. They learned to express their feelings honestly and to support each other through the healing process. One bright morning, Ulako woke up feeling unwell. She recognized the symptoms and with a mixture of hope and fear, took a pregnancy test. The result was positive. Tears of joy streamed down her face as she thought of the journey ahead. She was determined to stay strong and positive, trusting that this time would be different. When she shared the news with Chike, his reaction was a blend of happiness and anxiety. He wrapped her in a gentle embrace, whispering, "We will get through this together, Ulo, I promise." The months of pregnancy were not without their challenges. Ulako faced moments of fear and doubt, but Chike stood by her, offering unwavering support. They prayed together every night, asking for strength and protection for their unborn child. Chike's mother also played a supportive role, preparing nutritious meals and taking care of Ulako with genuine care. Her transformation was evident, and her actions spoke louder than words. She was determined to make up for the past mistakes and ensure that this pregnancy would be successful. As days passed, Chike's mother became gravely ill and deeply remorseful for her past actions towards her daughter-in-law and her son. One morning, she called them in her room and they sat beside her on her sick bed, and she tearfully begged for their forgiveness one more time. Surprised, they assured her that they had already forgiven her. She advised Chike to take good care of his wife, Ulako, praising her as a good woman, and prayed that God would accept her soul. Shortly after, she passed away. Chike and Ulako were deeply saddened by her death. After the burial, they slowly began to rebuild their lives and move forward. Also, the community rallied around Ulako and her family, offering prayers and encouragement. The pastor often visited, reminding them of the power of faith and love. Ulako's mother was a constant source of comfort. Her presence was a reminder of the resilience and strength that ran in their family. As Ulako's due date approached, the anticipation grew. Chike and Ulako's mother prepared everything for the arrival of the baby. They painted the nursery, bought baby clothes, and made sure Ulako had everything she needed for a safe and comfortable delivery. Finally, the day arrived. Ulako went into labor, and Chike rushed her to the hospital. The labor was long and difficult, but Ulako remained strong, her heart filled with hope and determination. Chike held her hand, whispering words of encouragement and love. After what felt like an eternity, the sound of a baby's cry filled the room. Tears of joy and relief flowed freely as the doctor announced the birth of healthy twins, a boy and a girl. Ulako and Chike could hardly believe it. They had been blessed with not one, but two beautiful children. As Ulako held her newborns, she felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. The years of pain and struggle had led to this moment of pure joy. Chike looked at his wife and children with love and gratitude, vowing to be the best husband and father he could be. The arrival of the twins marked a new beginning for Ulako and Chike. Their home was filled with laughter and love, and their hearts with gratitude and hope. Months passed since the birth of the twins, and the joy they brought to Ulako and Chike's home was immeasurable. The twins, Ada and Ike, grew healthy and strong, filling the house with their innocent laughter and boundless energy. Ulako and Chike's bond deepened as they navigated parenthood together. Despite the harmony in their home, Ulako felt a lingering sadness. She had thought so much about her mother staying alone in their house, and she felt deeply that she wanted her mother to come and stay with them and be part of their children's life. Though her mother had been supportive from a distance, Ulako wished for a closer relationship between her mother and her new family. One day, Ulako decided to take a step forward, mending this gap. She spoke to Chike about inviting her mother to live with them for a while to help with the twins and to strengthen their bond. Chike agreed, understanding the importance of family and waiting to support Ulako in every way possible. "Let's bring Mama here," Chike said, holding Olako's hand. "Our children should know their grandmother, and you deserve to have her close." With Chike's encouragement, Ulako called her mother. "Mama, I want you to come and stay with us," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "We need you here. I need you here too." Her mother, overwhelmed with emotion, agreed. "I will come, my daughter. I have missed you so much." A week later, Ulako's mother arrived. The reunion was with tears of joy and warm embrace. She immediately bonded with Ada and Ike, showering them with love and attention. The twins in turn adored their grandmother, their innocent laughter filling the house as she played with them. As the weeks went by, the family grew closer. Ulako's mother and Ulako with her husband bonded in friendship, supporting each other and helping around the house. They often reminisced about the past, finding healing in their shared experiences and mutual respect. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Chike stood up and raised his glass. "To family," he said, his voice full of gratitude. "We have been through so much, but we are stronger because of it. I am grateful for each and every one of you." Everyone raised their glasses, toasting to the strength and unity of their family. Ulako felt a sense of peace and fulfillment that she had never experienced before. She looked around the table at the people she loved and realized how far they had come. After dinner, the family sat in the living room, sharing stories and laughter. The twins played on the floor, their innocent joy a reminder of the miracles that had brought them together. Olako's mother looked at her daughter and said, "You have built a beautiful family, Olo. I am so proud of you." Tears filled Olako's eyes as she hugged her mother. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mama. Thank you for everything." The days turned into weeks and the family continued to thrive. They faced challenges, as all families do, but they did so together with love and support. Ulako and Chike's marriage grew stronger, rooted in the lessons they had learned and the trials they had overcome. One sunny afternoon, as Ulako watched the twin play in the garden, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had endured so much pain and hardship, but it had led to this moment of peace and happiness. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, but she was ready to face them with her family by her side. Chike joined her, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. "We have come a long way, Olo," he said softly. "Yes, we have," she replied, leaning into him, "and I am grateful for every step of the journey." As they watched their children play, they knew that the future held many more adventures, but with their love, faith, and the strength of their family, they were ready to embrace whatever came their way. And so the story of Chike and Ulako came to a close as they lived happily ever after. The most important lesson in this story is the power of forgiveness and resilience. Ulaku's journey through immense suffering, manipulation, and betrayal highlights the strength required to endure and overcome adversity. Despite facing relentless cruelty from her husband and mother-in-law, Ulako's unwavering faith, inner strength, and willingness to forgive ultimately led to healing and reconciliation. The story teaches us that holding on to anger only prolongs pain, but forgiveness can pave the way for new beginnings and restored relationships. It also underscores the importance of love and support from family and faith in overcoming life's toughest challenges. And with that, my dear friends, our story comes to a close. But remember, the magic of storytelling lives on, waiting to whisk us away on new adventures, where the wonders of imagination know no bounds. Goodbye for now, and may your dreams be filled with joy, wonder, and endless possibility. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting stories.